Hi there. Welcome to week 2. Um, I'm Dr. John, and you've probably seen a couple videos, but we haven't had a go-to session yet, and we haven't talked on the phone. So I thought it might be important to do this video in week 2 to get us all caught up. First, some fun things. This is my cell phone. You can reach me by calling 407-267-8600. Now, as long as I remember, I had a message. As long as I remember to take the do not disturb off, you're going to be able to get right through. If you don't get through, figure I've done something dumb like that, let the battery run out, or I have the do not disturb on. But you can get a hold of me. And if you're concerned with just calling through, text me first, and I'll call you back, or I'll tell you, give you time to talk. What I'd like you to do is to check in with me this week. Really, I guess that means tomorrow or Saturday. But I'd like you to be able to hear how you're doing. We've got a small class. There's only 5 of us, myself and you 4. So we can customize this learning experience to make sure you're getting the very best out of this class. This is an interesting class. It's public relations and reputation management, and I'm teaching this to you in the new media journalism program, but I teach public relations and reputation management in the Internet Marketing Masters program. I always have to remember what hat I'm wearing, and you may hear some things that come out of my mouth that you say, what did he just say? I had the wrong hat on. Hopefully I'll catch myself. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, I just want to go through and recap week 1, then get into week 2 and kind of continually tie everything from week 1 and week 2 together in that broader sense of reputation, but particularly anchored to ethics, something that is not necessarily talked about a lot today. And we don't get the type of training that we used to. So I want to try and talk ethics in the big scope for a little bit. Okay, so week 1, your assignment was a cause story. And we're going to circle back and look at that from a slightly different angle as we talk about the role between media and media professionals and public relations professionals in week 2. But week 1, you got the. By the way, when I give feedback, I'm giving it to you as if I were an editor, as if I were a producer, and I'm looking at your content and I'm saying, how is this coming across? How is the target market going to react to this, and what are they going to think? And I'm doing that, of course, against the rubric that you've got in the syllabus for this class. But that's the scope that I'm looking at. I'm going to give you suggestions. I don't always expect you to take them, but I want to try and give you some alternate ideas that you can look at and build upon. So that's what I'm doing. I'm poking. Okay, so that was cause story. The About Me script. Oh, by the way, yes, you can tell this is live TV, and it's hay fever season. There we go. Hopefully that's it. So, I would come back and do another take on this, but I got to tell you, I'm trying to bang out a number of different videos today, and this is take number 5. And I'm not going to let a stinking rotten sneeze interrupt this broadcast. How's that? Okay. You're saying, what did I get myself into with this class? The About Me page, the About Me script. What you're doing with this script is actually the first part in the reputation management component. You're building your reputation with your audience and with publics in general. By the way, in public relations, we talk about 3 groups. we talk about publics, we talk about audience, and we talk about stakeholders. So publics are anybody possible that we could be talking to. Audiences are those folks that might fall into our target market. And a stakeholder is an audience or a public that the actions that we've taken have impacted and have caused some sort of reaction, and vice versa. An audience or a public may do something and it causes us to react. Normally I'm talking this from the standpoint of the organization or the brand, but in this case, you are the brand, so it holds true. If somebody in your audience does something and you react, all of a sudden there's a symbiotic relationship, and they and you are now stakeholders. And we could go into that whole theory later on if you take a pure public relations course. But of course, this is new media journalism, and we're going to stay focused on the topic at hand. So the About Me page is where you start to talk to your publics and your audience. What you're saying is, here's my beat. This is what I cover. And in so doing, what you're really declaring is your mission. And your mission is composed of 3 items. It is why you write or why you cover the beat that you do now, today. It's your reason for existence. It's your raison d'etre. And then, for whom and how are you going to do it? To what extent? So the 3 questions are, why are you doing what you're doing today? For whom and to what extent? And in essence, again, you're communicating your beat, what you're writing about. Okay, so that's what you want to get to in the nugget of your about statement, your about video. And then you want to go, really, in order to tell that story, the best way to tell that story is, what journey have you been on? Where'd you come from? Where are you now? And where are you going? And obviously where you're going is the mission, or if we're going to make it strictly future oriented, it becomes a vision, but it's still the same 3 questions, just with the future orientation. Okay, so that covers the week 1 items. Let's talk a little bit about ethics, because what you're doing here is you're beginning to build your reputation. And in week 2, you've got an assignment that actually has you go out and takes a look at the codes of behavior for the public relations industry as identified by PRRSA, the Public Relations Society of America. And then also you can take a look at WOMA's guidelines with regard to ethics. And WOMA is word-of-mouth advertising. Telling stories, we're advertising, aren't we? We're always selling, and the person or the brand that we're always selling first and foremost is us. So that's what we're doing. Those 2 documents give you some basic guidelines to take a look at, and I think the important thing to understand is that we're building relationships. We're developing a mutual set of behaviors, hopefully between you and your audience, your stakeholders, and if it happens to be a public relations professional, between the public relations professional and yourself. And it's built on trust. And trust is that we say what we're going to do, we do what we say, and we're capable of doing what we say. We have the capability. So that's kind of a first, let's put our toe in the ethics water and or lake, and take a look at the WOMA and the PRRSA Code of Ethics. And we can come back and talk about this in later weeks, because this is really important stuff, is the ethics that we bring in. We'll talk a little bit more in background terms in this little video. Okay, so next, your week 3 assignment is nothing more than taking your About Me script and turning it into a video. Now, what I would suggest is take a look at your your B-roll, that if you're going to use any video, or the photos that you're using. Try to avoid any stock photos or stock footage. With your camera, with your iPhone, the iPhone 7 has great 4K capability. The number of lenses that are on the iPhone 7 give great photography capabilities. What I like to do when I'm making presentations and when I'm looking, it's called idea spotting. So I may Google something and look at Google Images and say, oh, that looks pretty good. That kind of conveys what I'm thinking. Then I say to myself, well, how can I recreate that? How can I take my equipment and go do something similar? When you use B-roll, it doesn't have to be long. If you have a 4 to 10 second piece of footage, that's all you're looking for. If you go longer, I wouldn't suggest going longer than 15 seconds with a piece, and only if it really needs the full 15 seconds. But if you've got an 8-second piece of B-roll, and then you can trim it and get a good 4 to 5 second piece out of it to add to your story, that's great. That's exactly what you're looking for. The combination of some good, high-quality resolution photos. And by the way, the best type of photos are those that are close up, showing detail, and they pull people in. And then use a little bit of Ken Burns effect to keep the motion going. You're going to end up with an incredible About Me video. Again, my suggestions are just that. This is your story. My suggestions are just to get you thinking and expand on what you already have, and to take your current draft and move it to a superb final product. Okay, so that takes care of the About Me. And now, so that's the assignment. And then the discussion this week is really about the relationship between media and PR professionals. And I teach this very same topic over in the other course. We look at it as the value chain. So if I'm representing a brand or an organization, my job is to get a newsworthy story out into the public. And in order to do that, my first tool of choice is the press release, because I can push that. Now, if I'm developing good relationships, and another place that I can put that story is in my newsroom section on my website, so that a journalist may come to our website and take a look at in the newsroom section and see if I have any current news in the form of press releases, etc., that they can then pull on. But typically, I'm going to be pushing, as a PR person, I'm going to be pushing out the information, and I want to make sure that I've got newsworthy items. So newsworthy is it's timely, it's relevant, it has impact to a greater audience. I'm not just trying to sell my brand or my product. In the grand scheme of things, that may be what I'm doing, but it's not the focus of the information that I want the journalist to convey. Now, so when I put a press release together, I make sure that I'm answering the big 6 questions: who, what, why, when, how. Who, what, when, why, where, how, who, etc. Trying not to get tongue-tied there. So, and not to sneeze again. So in doing that, I'm giving the journalists a lot of what they need. Now, I may not answer all the journalists' questions, and I'm also giving them a quote, I'm giving them a photo or a video. I'm trying to put all that in the press release so that, in essence, the journalist has a little media press kit in the form of that press release that they can either dig deeper, or they can just take that, reformat it, put it in story format, and tell that to their audience. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to influence that third person. What's interesting from the brand and the PR standpoint, once I push it off, it's out of my control. I have to rely on the relationship that I've developed with the media, and hopefully the right story gets told. And then from that standpoint, the audience of the journalist is very, very broad, And if I've done my job properly as a PR professional, my story, my message is being distributed to a very large public, to a very large audience. Now, that's what we call earned media. From the marketing and PR standpoint, I haven't paid for anything except in, you might say that sweat equity. I'm building a relationship. But it's what we call earned media, and that is different, of course, than advertising. Because in advertising, I'm paying money to control the exact message, the exact timing of the message, and the exact placement of the message. And so in marketing, we often talk in the difference between earned media and paid media or advertising. Okay, so now if we flip this over, you can say, well, okay, so I just accept what comes from public relations professionals. And that used to be the traditional way. With the advent of Web 2.0 and websites and newsrooms being placed on the website, you as the journalist have the opportunity to go do some research and take a look at what may be in a newsroom for an organization. Or, as your lesson 2 talks about, you can do media catching, which is that you can go to a place like Harrow, help a reporter out, and go looking, put an ad and go looking for subject matter experts, probably representatives from brands and organizations, to give you the information to develop the story that you want to tell. So where you're waiting for a story in the first example, in the second example, you're proactively going out and have a story in mind, and now you want to get sources. And that's what we call media catching. You can do it through a website, a listserv like Harrow, help a reporter out, or you can use social media tools and do much the same. Twitter's another good place for that. Okay, so that's the overview with regard to that. Let me come back and talk a little bit about the week 1 cause story. That is a perfect example of where, as I was looking at these, I could see press releases having been written where you, the journalist, took that information on the press release and turned it into a story. And hopefully they gave you a quote so you could use the quote in your story and you're all set to go. That would have been the ideal situation. That cause story might have also been a case where you had an idea for a story and then you wanted to go find subject matter experts to help you tell the story and give you the details. Now, social media is great, by the way, for that. And one of the things we're going to talk about in another video, it may not be today, but I'm going to talk to you about monitoring your beat. And so how you can have ideas and handle the reputation management all at the same time. That'll either, more than likely, it'll come out tomorrow or this weekend as I put it all together. But that will help with that component of storytelling. Okay, so that was the tie back to the cause story. And now let's just talk ethics in general. What the heck are ethics? Well, ethics are about the understanding what the greater good is. It's that search of knowledge to find out in terms of Western culture, ancient Western culture. It was the ancient Greeks that really started to think about their world beyond basic necessities and survival. And they started to ask the question, what is the good? What is this thing that we call good? Because if we understand what it is, then we can order our lives in order to achieve it. When you think about that, we're still doing that today with the PRRM ethics code and the WOMA code. We've ordered how we should handle our career in public relations and in media in order that we could do the activities that are going to lead us to that greater good. So ethics tells us what's good, what's right, what are the things that we should be doing. Our values are a subset of that, where we identify the most important things, the things that we value the most, and that's what we communicate in terms of our values. And morals are the ability to identify what's right and what's wrong. And of course, we want to focus on the good, the moral, and then in particular, what we value in order to achieve the greatest good. You're communicating all that not only in your About Me page, but you communicate that through your relationships with reporters, with other reporters and with the media. See that hat thing again. And you communicate it in everything you write. All right. So that was a little bit more with regard to ethics. And I'm going to leave you with a question. I'm going to load on another video. Actually, it's a podcast that I did. And the question I have for you is, what is fake news? You hear it all the time in the news. And the question is, are we part of the fake news cycle? Do we create fake news? Do we intend to create fake news, or do we inadvertently create fake news? And how can we go about preventing being part of the whole fake news industry, if there is such a thing? Food for you to think about, and we'll talk more about that down the road. I'm going to end this with just reminding you that I'm going to also add another video, the podcast video, and so you'll have these two items to listen to. And if you do have any questions, again, 407-267-8600. Oh! I want to come back. The producer over there just told me I missed something. So, in lesson 2, we do talk about media catching, and there's some good notes there. I want to share with you that one of the places to take a look at for the format for your article that you need to write for the discussion is Reagan's PR Daily, and just take a look at the About page to get a feel for what this site does in generalities. It's a daily news site that delivers news, advice, and opinions on public relations, marketing, social media, and media worlds. And then once you get a feel for everything that's written here on the About page, go take a look at some of the articles that are here to help you format the article that you want to write for your discussion. Now, the article is really simple. There's an article for you to read in the lesson that is an example of what PR people want to tell media people what they expect. And then your job is to write the reverse. And what are 5 things that public relations brand or organization or representatives should know in order to work successfully with a new media journalist? And that's your task. You also want to frame that in the area of your beat. So this comes back to what's your beat and what are the stories about. This also helps get to that third question: to what extent are you writing? This helps tell that part of the story when you can tell a public relations person how best to work with you. So now I'm getting the green light from the producer. Thank you, that everything is good to go. And this broadcast of new media journalism and public relations is going to come to an end. Have a great day. Let me know how you're doing.